All right, strap in everyone, because today we're diving headfirst into one of the most exciting topics in football.
Mm.
The best running backs of all time.
Oh, yeah. This will be good.
We're taking a look at a list compiled from you, the fans, over at thetop10s.com.
You know, we're bound to get into some heated discussions with a list like this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Mm.
we're talking about some of the most legendary players in NFL history, but hey, that's part of the fun, right?
For sure. I'm excited to see what insights we can uncover from how the fans rank these guys.
Exactly. So before we get into the rankings themselves, I got to ask you, what is it about running backs that just, captures everyone's imagination?
That's a good question.
I mean, is it the pure athleticism, the power, the agility, that ability to completely change the momentum of a game in a single play?
Honestly, it's all of that and more.
Yeah.
I mean, think about a guy like Barry Sanders, just making defenders look silly as he jukes past them, or Walter Payton just, refusing to go down.
Mm.
Those guys are the heart of the offense, and when they're on, it's just pure magic.
Okay, so the top10s.com, they collected thousands of fan votes, and they came up with a ranking it's sure to get people talking.
Oh, yeah.
And right at the top, we've got three names that I think are pretty much universally considered, royalty in the world of football. Barry Sanders, Walter Payton, and Emmitt Smith.
It's interesting, though, because even within that top tier,
Right.
you get these passionate arguments about who's actually the best,
Oh, yeah.
which I think really just highlights how different people evaluate greatness,
Absolutely.
right? Some fans, they value raw talent above everything else. Others look for consistency. Then you've got the whole era debate.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how do you compare players from different generations of the game? It's a tough one.
All right, well, let's start with the man at the top, Barry Sanders.
Okay.
Fans, they describe him as practically untouchable.
Oh, yeah.
Someone who could make defenders miss in a phone booth.
That's a good one.
They talk about him like he was creating his own holes even when his offensive line wasn't doing him any favors.
And it wasn't just his speed either, though he definitely had plenty of that.
Right.
It was his vision, his anticipation.
Yeah.
It's like he could sense where the defenders were going to be before they even got there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's that famous clip where he's trapped behind the line of scrimmage, right? 3 defenders closing in on him, and somehow he escapes and turns it into a 20-yard gain.
Oh, I've seen that one.
It's amazing. It's like watching a magician.
Yeah, you mentioned the era debate earlier, and that's where Walter Payton comes in.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of fans see him as like the embodiment of old school football.
Mm-hmm.
The smash mouth style of playing in a time when defenses were just brutal.
Oh, yeah. They didn't hold back then.
No, they didn't. And the fans who watched him play, they always talk about his grit, his determination, the fact that he earned every single yard.
Well, you got to think about how the game has evolved,
Yeah.
right? Defensive players could get away with so much more contact back then.
Yeah.
Plus, there wasn't as much emphasis on protecting quarterbacks and receivers.
Hmm.
So Peyton was constantly facing like 8 or 9 guys in the box.
Wow.
And he still managed to put up incredible numbers.
That's wild.
It speaks to his strength, his balance,
Yeah.
just his pure willpower,
Coming in at number 3, we got Emmitt Smith.
Now, Emmett,
Yeah.
when you talk about him, it's all about longevity and consistency.
Yeah, for sure.
The NFL's all-time leading rusher holds the record for most rushing touchdowns.
Right.
And he seemed to actually get better with age.
Which is crazy in a sport like football.
Exactly. You hear fans praising his intelligence, his leadership.
Mm-hmm.
He was known for his preparation, studying film, understanding defenses, and making adjustments on the fly. Just the ultimate professional, really.
Yeah.
And you see that dedication reflected in how durable he was.
Right.
Played for 15 seasons, rarely missed a game.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Okay, so we got to talk about Jim Brown before we move on.
Ah, yes, the Jim Brown factor.
It's hard to ignore him.
He's really a case study in how our ideas about greatness change over time.
Yeah.
Older fans will tell you, and they'll be adamant about it, that he's the undisputed king of running backs.
And they've got some pretty convincing arguments.
Oh, for sure.
The stories about his power and his dominance are legendary.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine a running back who's carrying multiple defenders on his back like it's nothing, who just keeps getting stronger as the game goes on. And you got to remember, he played in an era with shorter seasons, fewer games,
Yeah.
so his stats might not jump off the page at you, but his impact, you can't deny it.
Jim Brown was more than just a football player.
Right.
He was a cultural icon, a symbol of power and grace. You watch his highlights, and it's just a different level of athleticism.
It's hard to even comprehend considering when he played.
Yeah, and he retired right when he was at his peak,
Ugh.
leaving everyone wondering what could have been if he'd stayed a few more seasons.
One of the biggest what-ifs in football history, for sure.
It speaks to how captivating the running back position can be, I think.
Yeah.
These guys aren't just athletes, they're storytellers. They create these moments that stick with us, and we end up debating and talking about them for years to come.
Absolutely. All right, so we've talked about the top three, touched on Jim Brown, but this list goes way beyond just those guys.
Oh, yeah.
As we go further down the rankings, things actually get even more interesting, I think.
I agree.
Because we start seeing players who maybe didn't have that, universal recognition, but they still spark some serious debate among the fans.
That's what I love about these lists.
Right?
They get you thinking about those what-if scenarios.
Totally.
Those players you might have overlooked.
Exactly. Like Gale Sayers, often called the Barry Sanders of the 1960s, a guy with unbelievable talent, but whose career was cut way too short because of injuries.
Imagine this. A rookie comes in, scores 6 touchdowns in a single game.
Wow.
Even his own teammates were blown away. That was Gale Sayers. Speed, agility, vision, and he played with this infectious joy.
I've heard the stories.
But yeah, multiple knee injuries just derailed his career.
It's kind of heartbreaking when you think about it. You watch his highlights and it's like seeing these flashes of brilliance.
Right.
But, we only got a glimpse of what he could have been.
It makes you wonder what could have been if he had stayed healthy.
Definitely. And that brings us to another what-if story. Bo Jackson.
Oh, man, Bo Jackson.
This guy was like a force of nature.
He was a freak athlete. Football, baseball, excelled at both.
It's insane. People talk about him having this crazy combination of power and speed.
He could run over you or around you, and he made it look easy.
I remember watching him as a kid. It was like seeing a superhero come to life.
Oh, God.
There's this famous play, I don't know if you remember it, where he just runs over a linebacker.
Oh, yeah, I think I've seen that one.
Carries him on his back for a few yards and just keeps going. It was unreal.
And what makes it even more tragic is his football career got cut short because of a hip injury. Who knows what he could have achieved if he'd stayed healthy? He might have redefined the position.
Totally. Okay, let's switch gears a bit and talk about some players who maybe didn't have the same flash as a Barry Sanders or a Bo Jackson, but they were still incredibly effective and impactful. Guys like Franco Harris, Terrell Davis, Eddie George.
These were the workhorses.
Yeah.
The grinders. They might not have made the highlight reel every week, but they consistently got the job done and helped their teams win.
Franco Harris is a perfect example.
Yeah.
Most people know him for the Immaculate Reception.
One of the most iconic plays in NFL history.
Absolutely. But he was also a very consistent runner who played a huge part in the Steelers dynasty in the 70s.
It's interesting because Harris wasn't flashy.
Right.
Didn't have blazing speed or crazy agility. But he had this knack for finding the holes, breaking tackles, and always falling forward.
He was Mr. Reliable.
Exactly. And that's what made him so valuable.
Then you've got a guy like Terrell Davis, who had a short but incredibly impactful career.
Oh, yeah?
He was huge for the Broncos winning back-to-back Super Bowls in the late 90s. And he did it all while battling injuries.
Davis was a beast.
He was.
This amazing mix of power, vision, and just pure determination.
Yeah.
He could run between the tackles, but also had the speed to break away.
Right.
What's really amazing is that he achieved all this when running backs were starting to be devalued.
Yeah, teams were shifting to more pass-heavy offenses.
Exactly.
But Terrell Davis showed everyone that a dominant running back could still be a game changer.
Totally. It's a good reminder that football is a team sport, and different styles can succeed depending on the system and the players around you.
You mentioned Eddie George earlier.
Oh, yeah, Eddie George.
Playing for the Titans, who, let's be honest, didn't always have the best quarterback situation. So he knew every game that the defense would be focused on stopping him. And he still put up amazing numbers.
Eddie George was a monster.
He was this incredible combination of size, speed, and balance.
Yeah.
He ran with this physicality that was just scary.
He was the heart and soul of that Titans team.
Absolutely.
And carried them all the way to the Super Bowl.
What's impressive is that he never seemed to complain about having to shoulder so much of the load.
No, he just went out there and did his job week after week, year after year.
A true professional.
You see that a lot with these running backs further down the list.
Yeah.
Guys like Frank Gore, Curtis Martin, Jerome Bettis.
Yeah.
They were the blue-collar heroes. Maybe not as famous as some of the others, but still crucial to their team's success.
Absolutely. They earn the respect of everyone through their hard work, dedication, and doing whatever it took to win.
They might not have been the flashiest, but they were the backbone of their teams.
Their contributions were just as valuable.
No doubt.
It's really interesting to see how this list reflects how the running back position has changed over time.
Oh, yeah.
You have the powerhouses of the past, and then the more agile and versatile players we see in the modern game.
It's this constant back and forth between size, speed, power, finesse.
Yeah, what's cool is that the position is still evolving.
For sure.
We see young guys like Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara coming in.
Yeah.
They're redefining what it means to be a running back.
They're more than just runners.
Yeah.
They can line up all over the field and create mismatches for the defense.
It's like we're entering a new era for running backs.
Totally. Versatility and playmaking are just as important as raw power and speed now.
It's what makes this whole discussion so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's not just ranking players, it's about understanding how the position has changed and appreciating what makes each of these players unique. Man, this list just goes on and on.
Yeah, there's some serious depth here.
Players from every era with all sorts of different styles.
It's amazing to see how much talent there's been at the running back position.
And it's not just about the big names either, right?
No, not at all.
The top10s.com, they've got these sections for newcomers and contenders. And that's where it gets really interesting.
You see names like Joe Mixon, Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
Right alongside legends like Thurman Thomas, Marcus Allen.
It's crazy.
Really shows how this debate about the greatest running backs is always changing.
It's never settled, is it?
Nope. There are always new guys coming up, adding their own chapters to the story.
Okay, so we've talked about power, speed, versatility, durability.
Yeah.
But what about those things you can't really measure, you know?
The intangible.
Yeah, like vision, anticipation, that almost supernatural ability to make defenders miss.
Those are the things that separate the good from the truly great.
The Hall of Famers, from the guys who just had a few good seasons.
Exactly. Like, take Thurman Thomas, for example.
Oh, yeah, Thurman.
He was such a key part of those Bills teams in the early 90s.
Those Bills teams are something else.
Oh, yeah, they were dominant.
And Thurman, he just had this knack for finding the tiniest hole in the defense and turning it into a big play.
He was like a magician with the ball.
Yeah, making defenders look silly with his moves.
And he was just as dangerous as a receiver out of the backfield.
Right, a true dual threat.
And then you've got Marcus Allen.
Oh, man, Marcus Allen.
His definition of grace and athleticism.
He could do it all.
Run, catch, block, the complete package.
You watch him play, and it just looks so effortless, like he's gliding through the defense.
You know that famous play from Super Bowl VIII?
I think so. Remind me.
He breaks free for like a 74-yard touchdown run.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one.
It's just pure poetry in motion.
He makes it look so easy.
That's what sets the truly great running backs apart.
Mm-hmm.
They make the extraordinary seem ordinary.
So after all this talk, all these different perspectives, how do we even define what makes a running back the greatest of all time?
I honestly don't think there's one right answer.
Yeah.
It's a question of opinion, driven by passion, by nostalgia.
Which is what makes these discussions so fun.
Exactly. We all have our own favorites, our own criteria.
And that's what keeps the conversation going.
For sure. At the end of the day, it's about celebrating these players.
Yeah.
Their athleticism, their artistry, their stories.
Remembering those amazing moments, those runs that we'll never forget.
And recognizing that the debate will never really be over.
No, it won't. There are always new players coming up, writing their own chapters in the history of the game.
Exactly. Keep those discussions going. Keep those memories alive.
And most importantly, keep exploring this amazing sport.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, hey, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of football's greatest running backs.
It's been a blast.
Until next time, keep those debates raging and those memories alive.